We tryna run it up to my bro, what's the plan? All up in my mentions when I see them, they my fans. You win, then you lose, gotta take another chance. Let's go.
Hey, what's up, Jerry? Today we are watching I Tracked Every Micheal Jordan Playoff Game for a Decade. If you're new, like, comment, subscribe, go check out the little Jordan play. And we got Jordan videos on the channel, LeBron videos. Most of you are probably here for the Jordan videos, that's why you clicked on the Jordan video. I just dropped a recent one. NBA Legends think they tell who their GOAT is. Check it out, be in the little box up there. But let's get into it.
We all know that Micheal Jordan was an incredible basketball player. For many people, he's the undisputed GOAT. And in the Thinking Basketball Greatest Peak series, our Patreon community voted him #1. But one topic that always comes up with MJ is his teammate quality. In 1994, Jordan retired, and without him, the Bulls won a hefty 55 games and played the Eastern champion Knicks to a near draw, leading some people to think he might have been playing with a stacked deck. Others think those championships were all about Jordan because he finally embraced the team game.
So let's really find out what was going on then. Since y'all think he was carrying this video, I swear on my life, I don't know anything about this. This is a good video. I popped up at the right time. Thank you, Lord. They're going to let me know if he was carrying or if he was on a stack team.
1991 under the Zen master Phil Jackson. To help answer this question, we went back and tracked 129 Micheal Jordan playoff games to compare MJ and his teammates to what we've learned over the last quarter century. As we've discussed many times, there's no easy way to measure how good an NBA player is. We use basic stats like points per game or shooting efficiencies in conjunction with more advanced ones like how much a player improved his teammate's shot quality. But there's no silver bullet. What most of us are really trying to figure out is how much a player helps his team win, how much his presence impacts the scoreboard. And that's where one particular stat is always worth knowing, even if it isn't perfect itself. I'm talking about plus minus. Okay. And playoff plus minus has only...
It's kind of... Plus minus is kind of hard stat because you can be on the court. Jordan can be on the court, right? Or Scottie Pippen can be on the court and have a high plus minus. But Jordan just scored 20. So his plus minus can go up 20 and the other team not score at all. And he's doing the whole scoring. Now the defensive part is a valid point. They're not scoring cool. But the offensive part is kind of
tracked since the 1996-97 season, which means we have no information on those early Jordan teams, well, until now. For instance, in 1988, a fourth-year Jordan won his first MVP and the Defensive Player of the Year in the regular season, while carrying the likes of Charles Oakley and Dave Corzine to 50 wins.
That's crazy.
The Bulls played 10 postseason games that year, defeating the Cavs in 5 before bowing out to the Pistons. And in that 10-game stretch, Chicago was outscored by about 4 points every 48 minutes Jordan was on the court. When he went,
he had a -4 over the average. Okay.
Bench, they were outscored by 8 points per 48, which is about a 4-point difference.
Not a bad drop.
As a long-time thinking basketball,
your best player goes off. It's gonna go down.
Followers know 10 games is a really small sample, especially since Jordan only went to the bench for about 50 minutes during those playoffs. That means a few extra makes or misses would have a huge impact on those minutes that Jordan was off the floor. So to understand how Chicago performed without MJ, we really need to look at more games. In 1989, Jordan hit the shot over Craig Elo, and the Bulls upset the Cleveland Cavaliers, then took out the Knicks before running into the Pistons again. This time, Jordan's on-off looked very different. The Bulls outscored their opponents by 4 points every 48 minutes he was on the court, but were outscored by nearly 20 points.
Damn. Whoa. I'm not gonna lie. A 24.20, that's 23. I can't tell if that's a 5, and I can't tell if that's on 20. So I'm gonna just say 24 because that looks like it's closer to 20 and that's closer to 4. 24-point difference is crazy. That's almost a quarter difference.
per 48 when he was off the court. That gives us 27 total games now, but it's still a noisy sample. So we went ahead and collected the 1990 playoffs and the 91 playoffs and so on.
Okay.
After sifting through over 100 Bulls playoff games, we found some incredible gems, including a ringing into
GM Danny Andrews going at Jordan like that. Okay, boy.
for the channel. Thinking basketball every day. And this incredible quote about not wanting to excel as a three-point shooter.
Shooting is something that I don't want to excel at. And when you have that mentality, as I found out in the first game, of making threes, you don't go to the hole as much. You go to the three-point line and you start sitting there waiting for someone to find you. And that's not my mentality. And I don't want to create that because it takes away from my other parts of my game.
Damn, I was born too late. I want to watch this shit live so I can really grow up and say that LeBron really was the GOAT. Like, I could have watched both of them and really had the thought process of LeBron was the GOAT. But if I would have thought Jordan was the GOAT, it's all fine because they're both great. They're 1A and 1B. I see it 1A, 1B, but it is what it is.
Talking about threes because he made 6 of them in the first half of Game 1 against Portland back in the 92 finals, propelling him to 35 points before halftime on just 21 shots. Before that night, Jordan had made at least 5 threes in a game just once in his entire career, and he knocked down a half dozen before halftime. Thanks to the shrug, that legendary performance is still talked about 30 years later, but I don't think I've seen anyone mention what happened next in Game 2. Those three-point shots were only half the story to Game 1 because Jordan was just as unstoppable from inside the arc, drilling 8 of his 12 two-point shots. Poor Clyde Drexler was left in single coverage
Clyde the Glide was getting this shit worked
to the time, and if it wasn't the patented fadeaway that did him in, Jordan used his quickness to drive by Clyde into space and then float in mid-range pillows. In pick and roll, the Blazers sent a second defender to jump Micheal, but Jordan shed him for more mid-range magic. So when Game 2 rolled around, the Blazers radically changed their defensive strategy, first by doubling him in the post so he couldn't feast on fadeaways down there, and then bringing extra defenders when possible to help on his drives. And these adjustments did make a difference, leading to some turnovers and some easy scores for Portland.
So he's not
good. But they also put Jordan in a position to set up his teammates for wide open shots. So his most prolific three-point shooting game in the playoffs led to one of his most prolific playmaking games in the playoffs, setting up open shot after wide open shot for his teammates throughout the night. Of course, even when they sent help, Jordan's individual scoring brilliance was still on display. There are 3 Blazers.
What the fuck? Is this nigga crazy? That is 3 people. Clearly he's not hitting that.
Lurking here.
Damn.
And it.
Damn. But you could have got the 3 off.
Brilliance was still on display. There are
Scotty's calling for the ball. He said, "Fuck you, Scotty." I'm not gonna lie. He told Scotty, "Go fuck yourself."
There's lurking here.
Suck my.
And this time he spins away from the help, and that's just insanity. Since he finished with 39 points, Jordan's scoring pressure also created a ton of shots for teammates himself. Here's one in transition where he crosses right, hangs in the air, and kicks it out for an open 3. And he actually looked back to the trailer to freeze the defense before snapping it to the corner for that jumper. All told,
I'm a sucker for passes. That's why LeBron might go. I'm a sucker for passes. It's a good pass right there. It's not LeBron shit, but it's a good pass. I ain't gonna lie.
I tracked a whopping 15 shots created like this for teammates, which is a hard number to hit historically.
Give me the assist.
For perspective, in the entire 2011 playoffs, the single game high I tracked was 14. So Jordan was a playmaking machine in this game, despite also dropping nearly 40. Portland tried other defenders on Micheal besides Drexler, but he took smaller players like Terry Porter or Danny Ainge to the post, and against bigger defenders, he was just too quick off the dribble, and that's one less big body to stop him at the rim. This was actually a theme during Jordan's first 3 NBA finals. The Lakers' starting 2-guard Byron Scott was too small for him in the post, and he torched the Suns in '93 because they lacked agile wing defenders who could stay in front of him. Actually, that Phoenix series was a perfect storm because they had very little rim protection once Jordan shed his defender, and his finishing ability made him nearly unstoppable.
So he's playing a shit team.
He was way too quick for Dan Marley.
He's playing a shit team. Didn't have paint defense or perimeter defense. It's crazy.
Who lacked the foot
Well, I
speed.
guess he's not saying that. I guess he's just saying he just didn't have it for Jordan. They may have had good wing defenders, just not able to check Jordan. And they didn't. They may have had great paint defense. Great paint defense, but couldn't check Jordan in the paint.
Slide with him on the outside, and when the Suns tried a bigger forward like Richard Dumas, he was again unequipped to move with Micheal on the perimeter. Tom Chambers is playing center here, and he's too deep under the hoop and barely gets above 9 feet on his contest because he's not a shot blocker. If Jordan blew by Dumas and Charles Barkley was at the rim, he offered even less resistance on these drives. When Phoenix went to a quicker defender like Kevin Johnson, MJ had a size advantage and took him right back to the post. In Game 4 of this series, Jordan scored 33 in the first half en route to 55 overall, and it wasn't just tactical mismatches, but more of his spectacular long-range shooting. Although this
33 in the first half in the finals game is crazy. I cannot lie to you. I mean, you're playing the best of the best that the West has to offer, and they can't even stop you from getting 30 at half. Oh my God.
It was mostly from just inside the three-point line. In his greatest peaks profile, we saw a more physically gifted MJ. His first step was a touch quicker, his motor revved a little higher, but by 1992 he became a deadly outside shooter, putting on displays like this during critical playoff games. This is from the closeout game in the first round of 1992, and Jordan would just regularly stroke long jumper after long jumper like this, and he did it well, somehow maintaining great efficiency for his time. Probably because this version of Micheal was one of the greatest mid-range shooters in league history. One Real GM poster named Dipper13 tracked over 1,500 Jordan jumpers from 1990 to 1992 and had his mid-range accuracy at 51%, which sounds completely reasonable after watching him torture teams in these playoff runs. Some of these shots are basically works of art, and this was one of the best scoring displays I've ever seen, slicing up Miami in basically every phase of the game.
He is cheesing them. They can't stay.
Defended him well in 1992 and 93, even holding him to a 3 for 18 shooting game that year, only for MJ to go off in the very next game, dropping in 6 more threes in a 54-point outing to tie the series at 2 games apiece. So, even if Jordan lost a touch off his fastball by 1992 and 1993, he was still otherworldly. Which brings us back to our original question. How did the Bulls perform with him in the game? And what happened when Jordan went to the bench during the 1990s?
Thank you. I forgot I was about to talk about the
In 1990, Phil Jackson arrived and installed the triangle offense, which was mostly in full swing by the time Chicago hit the playoffs that year. The Bulls again bowed out to the eventual champion Pistons in 7 hard-fought games. But in Jordan's playoff minutes that season, the Bulls outscored their opponents by over 7 points per 48, a jump into championship-level territory. In 2 seasons, Chicago had completely reshaped the roster around Jordan, with Charles Oakley, Sam Vincent, Dave Corzine, and Brad Sellers out, replaced by Bill Cartwright, Craig Hodges, B.J. Armstrong, and Stacey King, along with the emergence of their supporting stars, Horace Grant, and of course Scottie Pippen. So in 1991, when the Bulls broke through, they were a whopping 13.5 points better than their opponents with Jordan on the floor.
Why don't you see the 90
and they still outscored their opponents even when he went to the bench. In 1990.
Okay, this is what I like to see. Because that's LeBron. You gotta do money for LeBron. Because that's LeBron. It may be here, but it's going to be way down here when he's off the court. That's just how it goes.
They weren't as dominant with Jordan in the game, but without him, lineups often spearheaded by Pippen the Bulls again outscored their opponents.
What the fuck?
In 93, the numbers were similar, although his teammates were outscored by a few points when he wasn't in the game.
That's still not bad.
Remember, we wanted to eliminate some of the noise by tracking multiple seasons. So if we combine these seasons and look at multi-year stretches, we start to see a pattern.
So that's really before Scottie emergence.
As the years
This is
progressed,
with Scottie.
the Bulls looked better and better without Jordan, improving from a team with essentially no
Scottie's
chance at a
getting better.
title to one that looks like a really good supporting cast in the playoffs. If we compare these numbers to larger minute stretches, Jordan's supporting cast went from the 0th percentile to the 37th percentile and ultimately into the top 25% of supporting players.
What the
If
fuck?
we include the 94 Bulls, who played 10 full playoff games without Micheal, we see a pretty steady rate of growth into the mid-90s without Jordan in the game.
Jordan fans. I don't know what he's trying to say, but stack team, stack team, stack team, super team, super team. I'm just saying.
Remember, these numbers are still a little sensitive to hot and cold stretches. And more importantly, this is really about Jordan's value on the Bulls specifically. Who was his backup, or how did they structure the lineups without him in the game?
Oh my god.
With that said, I wanted to see how Jordan and the Bulls compared to other high-minute players who made deep playoff runs over multiple seasons. The horizontal axis is how good the team was when the player was on the court, and the vertical axis is how much the team improved with the player in the game. These are all the players who logged 1,500 playoff minutes and 500 minutes on the bench over multi-year stretches since
I'm so
1997.
lost in so many dots, numbers, and shit on the screen.
The player with the largest change is David Robinson. The Spurs were 25 points better with him from 1998 to 2001. Although Robinson wasn't his team leader in minutes, so his lineups could have been more favorable for a stat like this. Among minute leaders, Shaq's Lakers.
So Shaq really the GOAT. I got no problem with saying Shaq the GOAT though. I really got no problem with saying Shaq the GOAT because like Shaq is the most dominant player ever. So I have no problem with it. None.
Were 21 points
LeBron
better with
right
him
there.
in the playoffs from 2000 to 2004.
That nigga LeBron right there.
And LeBron's teams
Right
were
there.
19 points better from 2016 to
LeBron right there.
2021.
Who's this right here?
Jordan's best stretch came from 1989 to 93, where the Bulls were 14 points better with him in the game. So this is a great number, but isn't quite as emphatic as Shaq's or even LeBron's. The Bulls' best stretch with Micheal on the floor includes that second three-peat, where from 1991 to 96, they were nearly 9 points better than the competition, short of Curry's
So to all you saying super team for LeBron, I'm just saying. Like, it's no hate. We all know Jordan is right there in the GOAT conversation, you know. He's not my GOAT, but I understand why people call him the GOAT, you know. You grew up watching it. You're going to grow up watching whoever you watch. You're going to call him the GOAT. But for y'all saying super teams, that clearly just proved to you his team was better than LeBron's teams. When they both off the court, Jordan's teams performed better than LeBron's did. That's just what it is. That's what it is.
plus 12, but still one of the best stretches on record.
It's good
The
though.
96 Bulls went an incredible
It's not far
87 and 13, a record that's
So
still
like I said, if I had to pick a team like of scrubs and picking somebody to carry the team, I'm picking LeBron over Jordan. That's just a fact. That's just a
to
fact.
this day, although the 1991 team was actually slightly better with Jordan on the floor during the playoffs. For those final three championships, Micheal was older and less explosive, although he was stronger and craftier than ever. That strength let him operate out of the post, commanding double teams that freed up his teammates, and he could overpower defenders down there, and then, instead of an acrobatic finish, kick it out to a wide open shooter.
You came over past
Michael's size and body control really stand out in these years, feeling a defender on his back before spinning away to collapse the defense and set up a teammate. And even on his back before spinning away to
1, 2, 3, 4. Damn. If he didn't make this pass, he's just a selfish guy.
the defense and set up a teammate. And even though he lost some of that quickness, he could still stop on a dime to create
That
space.
stop was crazy.
And despite all the jukes and spins, he just seemed to be in total control of his body at all times. This was never more apparent than in the evolution of his fadeaway, where he couldn't always out-jump his defender, so he had to alter his shot in the air. This meant changing the angle of his body and the arc of the jumper, looping it over a nearby hand. He also used the pump fake more to create a little extra breathing room to fire, and he could do all this while reclining his body at extreme angles while he was in the air. This is like a pool shark learning all the tricks and bounces of the table, his mind adapting in real time to lean back a little more or aim the shot just a little higher. His defense was also really impressive in those final Chicago seasons, using his strength and anticipation to contain the ball and maintaining a relatively high motor on that end despite being longer in the tooth. His hands were as destructive as ever, and he actually gambled less during those second three-peat years compared to his more chaotic style when he was younger, and even that risk-taking was often calculated and precise. As a result, he actually put up some of the more impressive plus-minus numbers in his playoff career, where the Bulls were outscored by 3 points without him during the 96 playoffs, but then crushed teams by 13 points per 48 with Jordan on the floor. The NBA officially started tracking plus-minus in 1997, and he looks great there too, as well as in 1998. So, what can we make of all this? Well, despite the noise in plus-minus stats, I find these numbers incredibly important for a few reasons. First, they affirm that Jordan's supporting cast radically improved during their title-winning seasons, not necessarily Michael himself. As we discussed in his Greatest Peaks profile.
So, he necessarily didn't get any better than what he was. The team around him got better. You see what I'm saying? Can we say the same thing for LeBron, though? Like, LeBron got better. He just kept getting better and better. When you think he's done, he's not done. He just keeps getting better, developing that point stroker. But the team just continuously getting worse. That's what happens.
MJ looked superhuman before Chicago won a title. He just needed the right teammates to climb the mountain with.
Jordan didn't need to go build a super team.
And both of the three peoples looked great when Jordan was on the floor, with their second 3-year run falling just behind Steph Curry's Warriors during the Kevin Durant years.
What the fuck? You telling me this team fell right behind, like, the supporting cast fell right behind the Warriors in the Kevin Durant years, and y'all be talking about LeBron with his super teams? I'm so glad he did this video. This is crazy. Like, this is eye-opening. This may be the most eye-opening video I've ever watched, because it really proves, and when y'all say the super team thing, it doesn't add up. It doesn't. It just doesn't. Because we always known he had the super team. Like, LeBron created super teams. This was a super team. It was always a super team. And I always say this. And, like, I understand that people say LeBron joined, he had to go somewhere to win a ring. But I want y'all to understand, like, logically look at something. Like, all trollers from both sides of us. Because we both want to troll because you think Jordan the GOAT, and I think LeBron's the GOAT. So we both want to troll. We're not going to look at things logically. But clearly, let's lay it all on the table. LeBron never had a good GM. He never had a good owner. He never had a good coach while in Cleveland the first time. Okay? And the second time he had a good coach, I don't still think he had the rest of that. But Michael Jordan had all of these things. He had Phil Jackson, arguably the greatest coach of all. He had the owner. The Bulls owner is one of the greatest owners of all time. And what's the GM's name? I can't remember. Jerry Krause. Jerry Krause, I think is his name. I think it's Jerry Krause. I think it's Jerry Krause. I think it's Jerry. I'm not sure. But arguably the greatest GM of all time. So I mean, like, what is we saying? What the fuck is we saying here? He had to go get something, because if he wasn't, LeBron would have never won a chip. If he did, he would have won 1 or 2, because he literally had to carry him. LeBron was so good so early, he could never get the picks, like the good picks in the lottery. So he never was going to get a good teammate with him unless somebody came and joined him. And y'all still would have said somebody had to come and join him, which I didn't act like Scotty came and joined him. So you see what I'm saying? And nobody wants to play in Cleveland. Chicago is way more appealing than Cleveland. So you're way likelier to get like a Dennis Rodman type player in a free agency, because it's Chicago. Cleveland is ass. Tell me what you think of Cleveland. Would you vacation in Cleveland? Or would you, if you had to choose between vacationing in Cleveland or vacationing in Chicago, what would you choose? Most likely in Chicago. So if you had to choose to live there and play your sport and do your job there, what would you choose? Chicago or, okay.
And finally, Jordan does not actually look like an outlier compared to other greats when he was on the court versus off it. His teams were plenty competitive without him, and when he was in the game, other all-time clubs were comparably dominant. Of course, there's enough variability in these numbers that the best player ever isn't guaranteed to have the best on-off ever. So the debate will certainly rage on. But I'll leave you with this. After pouring through over 100 playoff games of Jordan and the Bulls, it's hard to find a more consistently impressive decade of playoff performances in the entire history of the NBA.
He dominated.
And the numbers certainly back that.
He dominated, but he had a good team. So
if you want more detailed access to the...
Tell me what you think of the video. I think it's a good video. I mean, we found a lot of new things, you know? So we can end the argument of LeBron played on super teams and Jordan didn't. He just said this comparable to the KD Warriors. So kill the noise, please. Jesus Christ. But hey, man, let me know what you think. Let me know if you want more videos like this. I think I may watch the Jordan peak profile. That's going to be probably sometime next week. Let me know when y'all want it. This will probably drop on, what's today? Probably drop Wednesday or Thursday? Probably Wednesday. Probably Wednesday. Let's come in the video. Clearly we just watched an expert play the game of basketball. If you want to learn how to become an expert yourself, check out the last video. It'll be right here on the screen. 4 ways how to become an expert. I think that's what it's called, something like that. It's a reaction to it. Go check that out. Or subscribe and check out more videos on the channel. Got more Jordan videos. It's all. I mean, check it out. Subscribe. It's a bunch of things. 700 videos. Go find something, you know. If you like basketball, go watch one of the old basketball reactions. That's going to be the video, y'all. I love you. I'm out.
Spin another bag and we do it all again. We tryna run it up to my ball, what's the plan? All up in my mentions when I see them, they my fans. You win.